December 24, 2014, from Aloha Stadium in Honolulu, Hawaii. It was the Hawai'i Bowl between the Fresno State Bulldogs and the Rice Owls. So the Owls would take over first after the kickoff on their own 25. Their faced as a 2nd and 4 from the 31, and DeForest Jackson hit Jordan Taylor for an 11-yard pass and a first down at the 42. Jawan Davis then ran 24 yards for the first down to the Fresno 34. They were then faced with a 2nd and 10 from the 34, and Jackson picked up 15 on the ground to make it a first down in the red zone on the Fresno State 19. Then on 2nd and goal from the 11, Luke Turner picked up 2 in the first down to make it 1st and goal on the 9. But then a holding penalty would move him back to the 19, and then a personal foul moved him all the way back to the 34. So it was 1st and goal from the 34. Jackson hit right for a 17-yard pass to make it 2nd and goal from the 17. And then Jackson picked up 13. That would make it 3rd and goal from the 4, but an incomplete pass would bring out James Hairston to attempt a 21-yard field goal. It was up. It was good. And the Owls put the first points on the scoreboard with the score Rice 3, Fresno State 0. So now the Bulldogs would take over on their own 26 after the kickoff with about 10.5 minutes left in the first. They picked up a first down, but after 5 plays, they would end up punting from their own 31. So now Rice would take over on their own 39 with about 7.5 minutes left in the quarter. They picked up a first down, but then they were faced with a 4th and 2 from the 36. They elected to go for it. Jackson tried to pick it up himself, but it was stopped for no gain, and so they turned the ball over on downs. So now the Bulldogs take over on their own 36 with about 5.5 left in the first. They're faced with a 3rd and 5 from the 41, and Brian Burrow hit Josh Harper for a 7-yard reception of first down at the 48. Then on 3rd and 2 from the Rice 44, Quesada picked up 20 yards in the first down at the Rice 24. But they would end up going backwards on the next run, and a couple of incomplete passes would bring out Cody Cronin to attempt a 44-yard field goal. It was up, it was good, and this game was tied up at 3 apiece between Rice and Fresno State. So now the Owls would take over on their own 22 after the kickoff with a little over 2 minutes left in the first quarter. They were faced with a 3rd and 2 from the 30, and DeForest Jackson hit Dennis Parks for a 53-yard reception and a first down in the red zone at the Fresno State 17. Then on 2nd and 7 from the 14, Jackson hit Taylor, this time for the 14-yard touchdown to make it Rice 9, Fresno State 3 after the missed extra point. So now Fresno State would take over on their own 25 after the kickoff with about a half a minute left in the first. And on first down, Brian Burrow dropped back and he was intercepted by JT Blaskin. And so now Rice would take over on their own 31. And on first down, DeForest Jackson hit Mario Hall for a 69-yard touchdown pass. And so now it was Rice 16, Fresno State 3, and the kickoff would bring the first quarter to a close. So that's the score after 1 quarter of play. Rice 16, Fresno State 3, and to start the second quarter after the kickoff, Fresno State would have it on their own 30 for the first play of the second quarter. They would go 3 and out and end up punting from their own 37. So now Rice would get the ball after the punt on their own 23. They went 3 and out and would punt from their own 26. So 2 3 and outs from each of these teams, with 1 apiece. And now Fresno State had the ball on their own 26 with about 11.5 minutes left before halftime. And on 2nd and 3 from the 33, Burrow hit Olsen for a 7-yard reception, a first down at the 40. Quesada then ran 21 yards all the way into Rice territory for the first down at the 39. They're then faced with a 4th and 7 from the 36. They elected to go for it, and they ended up getting a penalty called against the defense for holding. And so now it would be a first down for the Bulldogs on the 26. They weren't able to get another first down, and out would come Cody Cronin a couple plays later to attempt a 40-yard field goal. It was up, it was good, as the Bulldogs cut the lead to 10 with the score Rice 16, Fresno State 6. So now the Owls would take over on their own 25 with about 9 minutes left in the second. They would end up going 3 and out, though, on the possession and punt from their own 18 as they end up losing yards due to some penalties. Well, a false start penalty anyway. And so now Fresno State would take over on their own 42 after the punt with about 7 minutes left in the second quarter. They ended up getting into Rice territory and all the way into the red zone. But they were faced with a 4th and 1 from the 18. They elected to go for it. And they got a complete pass, Burrow to Watson, but it lost 3 yards. And so the Bulldogs turned the ball over on downs. Now Rice would take over with less than 4 minutes left before halftime, and the ball on their own 21. But they would end up, even though they did get a first down, they then ended up going backwards with a false start and ended up having a punt from their own 21. So after 6 plays. And now Fresno State would take over after the punt on their own 37 with just over a minute left before halftime. And on first down, Brian Burrow took it 19 yards for the first down into Rice territory at the 44. But then he was sacked by Zach Pat. And so now that 9-yard loss will bring them back into their own territory. And they would end up punting from the Rice 45 a couple plays later. So now Rice would take over, and they would just take a knee, and this game would go to halftime. So halftime in the Hawai'i Bowl, the score was Rice 16, Fresno State 6. So now Fresno State would start the third quarter down by 10, and the ball on their own 25 after the kickoff. But on 3rd and 5 from the 30, Brian Burrow was sacked by Alec Lions, and so now Lions, and so now it was. They went 3 and out, and they would punt from the 21. So Rice would take over on their own 30 after the punt, and they went 3 and out after a sack by Carl Mickelson on Jackson on 3rd and 9. He dropped them for a 7-yard loss, so they punted from the 24. So after the 3 and out, Fresno State would take over on their own 35 after the punt, and they would pick up a first down, and they would get into Rice territory. They had a huge play, a 41-yard run by Waller. But then their drive stalled, and out would come Cody Cronin to attempt a 44-yard field goal, and it was blocked by Brian Nordstrom. And so the score remained Rice 16, Fresno State 6. So now Rice would take over with about 9 minutes left in the third. They had the ball on their own 27, and on 2nd and 7 from the 30, Jackson hit Taylor for a 10-yard reception and a first down at the 40. Then on 2nd and 7 from the 43, Jackson ran it 9 yards for the first down in Fresno territory at the 48. They were then faced with a 3rd and 2 from the Fresno 40, and DeFarius Jackson hit Dennis Parks for a 40-yard touchdown. And it was now a 17-point lead for the Owls with the score Rice 23, Fresno State 6. So now the Bulldogs took over on their own 25 with a little over 6 minutes still left in the third. They ended up getting into Rice territory, and on 2nd and 8 from the 46, Brian Burrow dropped back to pass, and he was intercepted by Bryce Callahan. And so now the Owls would take over on their own 12 after the pick with about 4 minutes left in the third. But they would end up getting a first down, but punting after 4 plays from their own 28. And so now the Bulldogs would take over with about a minute left in the third, and the ball on their own 39. They were faced with a 3rd and 2 from the 47, and Quesada got dropped for a 2-yard loss on the final play of the third quarter. So after 3 quarters of play, the score was Rice 23, Fresno State 6. So now to open up the fourth, Fresno State would bring out the punting unit to punt from their own 45. Rice would now take over with just less than 10 seconds ticked off the clock in the fourth, and the ball on their own 9 backed up against their own end zone with a 17-point lead. They were able to get the ball, though, up. They got a first down, but would end up punting from their own 27 after 6 plays. So now Fresno State took over on the Rice 47 after the punt, and they would be faced with a 4th and 4 from the 41, and they went for it, and an incomplete pass would turn the ball over on downs as the Owls would now take over on their own 41 with about 10.5 minutes left after the big stop on defense. And on first down, DeForest Jackson hit Derek Dilliard for a 58-yard reception all the way down to the 1-yard line. So it's now 1st and goal, and they gave it to Derek Dilliard. He punched it in from a yard out, and it was now a 24-point lead for the Owls with the score Rice 30, Fresno State 6. So now the Bulldogs would get the ball on their own 25, and they would go 3 and out and punt from the 27. So now Rice would get the ball back with about 9.5 left in regulation, and the ball on their own 24. They did get a first down, but they would end up punting from their own 47 after 5 plays. So now the Bulldogs took over with 5.5 left to play in this game. They had it on their own 15. They did get a first down, but then on 4th and 5 from the 37, they elected to go for it, and an incomplete pass turned the ball over on downs. So now Fresno State had the ball with a little over 3 minutes still left to play. They went 3 and out and punted from their own 38. So now Fresno State had the ball down by 24 with a minute and a half left to play. They had it on their own 20, and they would get into Rice territory. It was 2nd and 8 from the 49, and Zach Greenlee was sacked by Dylan Clare, and then a couple of incomplete passes would turn the ball over on downs. They elected to go for it on 4th down. They turned it over on downs, and now Fresno State would give it to Rice. Rice had it on the Fresno State 46. They took a knee in the victory formation as this game came to a close with the final score, Rice 30, Fresno State 6, as the Owls win the Hawai'i Bowl. They're now 8-5 on the season. Fresno State 6-8. And in this game, DeFrias Jackson, and I apologize for the pronunciation, I hope I'm saying it right, but probably not. But he was 15 for 24. He had 318 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. He also had 13 carries for 41 yards. Quite the performance for the Owls. And for Fresno State, Brian Burrow was 10 for 20 for 44 yards passing. Then Zach Greenlee came in the game, and he was 7 for 18 for 49 yards. So he actually passed him in yardage. Burrow did have 32 yards rushing off of 9 carries. So the leading rusher in the game was actually of the Fresno State Bulldogs, Martez Waller. He had 15 carries for 76 yards, and Josh Quesada had 12 carries for 52 yards. And for Rice, their leading rusher was Jawan Davis. He had 46 yards off of 13 carries. And Luke Turner, see, I messed up even the easy ones. Luke Turner had 6 carries for 42 yards as well. And the leading receiver in this game was Dennis Park of the Rice Owls. He had 5 receptions for 109 yards. Mario Hull had 3 receptions for 82 yards. And Jordan Taylor had 5 receptions for 61 yards. And Derek Dillard had 2 receptions for 57. Zach Wright had 1 for 17. And the leading receiver for the Bulldogs was Josh Harper with 4 receptions for 25. The Owls had 2 interceptions. Bryce Callahan and JT Blessingham had 1 pick each, and as I said, apologize for the pronunciation. I am working on that. But here in this game, Rice is victorious in the Hawai'i Bowl on Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate. Happiness to you and good tidings to all. As I said, the final score, Rice 30, Fresno State 6.